Good morning. Thank you for joining us. We'll give it a couple of minutes and let some of the other attendees join us, and we'll make a start. We're going to publish a couple of polls on the screen, so if you take a couple of minutes to answer those, that'd be appreciated. Thank you. Okay, thanks again everyone for joining us. This is the second part of our developing a digital capability series of webinars. I'm joined today by my esteemed panel of speakers. I'm Terry China. I'm the Solutions Director for Workspace at XMA. And guys, if you'd like to introduce yourselves.
Hello,
Robert?
So Robert Epstein. I am a product marketing director for Microsoft in our Microsoft 365 team, responsible for all things client, so Windows 10 and the Office applications.
Thank you, Robert. And Adam?
Good morning, everyone. Adam Stewart here. So I work in the public sector team, supporting UK public sector organisations from education, councils, right through to central government.
Thank you, Adam. And last but not least, Cordula.
Hi everyone, my name is Cordula Schellenberger, but hard to pronounce initially, but I'm running the strategic account manager team here at LumApps. Yeah, look forward to chatting to you today.
Excellent, thank you guys. Just bear me 1 second. Okay, so this is a high-level agenda of what we're covering today. I'm going to give you a quick overview of our Workspace Solutions. There's a bit of an overview on the webinar series that we've been putting together. And then we're going to kind of move on with some real great insights from our partners that have kindly joined us on this session today. And then we'll move towards the wrap-up of the session. There's a chat box, so if you have any questions that you'd like to ask, feel free to drop them into there. We'll try and answer them as we go along, or when we get to the end of the webinar. If we don't get a chance to answer them at the end, or if you don't get a chance to ask the questions today, you can either ask your account managers, and if you don't have an account manager, there'll be some contact details at the end of the presentation. So just bear with me 2 seconds. Just trying to find my slide here, so just bear with me 2 seconds. Here we are. So our Workspace Solutions I'll give you an overview of kind of the 4 key areas that we focus on, but our job really is to help customers simplify end user computing, take away that complexity. We're probably the only reseller in the UK that focuses on the key platforms, OS platforms, so Apple, Google, Microsoft, and we have strategic relationships with a lot of complementary partners that sit across those platforms. And the way we kind of do it is we focus on, the first area we focus on is deployment management. So whether that's managing your legacy end user compute infrastructure, or transforming management of devices, containerizing applications, we can support you with that. And then we kind of move over to the security and control part, which is everything around the user, data and access management. That brings us nicely to productivity and collaboration, a key topic for today. So we help you with pretty much any type of application really, SaaS app, internal web apps, mobile apps. We also help you digitize processes and bring siloed processes together with robotic process automation. And then kind of where that leads us to is to help customers gain insights and into the productivity, usage, utilization of tools that are deployed, and monitoring and event management. What we found, obviously, with kind of where we are at the moment, in an ideal world, that is the sort of flow that a lot of customers would follow, but we understand that that's not possible with where we're at the moment. So what we've done is kind of realigned that quadrant and align that with a series of webinars. So the first couple of webinars we did, which are available on demand on our website, was around preparing for business continuity. So that was kind of split into 2 parts. The first part was providing rapid access to PCs that are in the office, enabling your users to access them from any device, or looking at virtualization of apps and desktops. We then spoke about shifting from the VPN to a software-defined perimeter. The topic was on at the moment is around developing a digital capability. Last week we talked about fast tracking your cloud first agenda. So that was around the readiness for cloud, developing a engaging training plan and making the most out of the tools that you have. And this week's webinar really kind of complements that. So it's how do you make the most out of the technology that you have? How do you leverage the innovations within those technologies and bring the teams together? And really the last set of webinars over the next couple of weeks is around the security elements of it. So we've enabled remote working, we've enabled people to work from anywhere, use some wonderful tools, but how do we manage the security side of things, the security posture, without hindering productivity? So that's what we'll be talking about over the next couple of weeks. So back to today's focus. I'm now going to hand over to Rob from Microsoft to take us through some of the innovations with Microsoft. So Rob, give me 1 second.
Yeah, thanks, Terry.
Okay, all yours.
Oops, thank you. So let me share screen and okay, you see my screen now?
Yeah.
Great. So good morning, everybody. As I said, my name is Rob Epstein, work in the M365 team at Microsoft in the UK, and I just want to talk about how you can use technology that you very probably own already to help all of your employees achieve more, and particularly talk a few things around, AI that is embedded within the latest versions of certainly the Office applications, and how we're using Teams and collaborative tools to help people in the kind of new normal that Terry just talked about. So, we are, all quite familiar with this idea that transformation of work and digital transformation, that work has moved from a sort of place you go to a thing that you do, and actually now has moved on again very much more to not a place you go. We're all working remotely from home, etc., and having to adapt to that, and sort of spending our lives on these kind of webinars and conference calls, and it's really brought that kind of video technology to the fore. But the question I have, kind of particularly if you think about just prior to sort of the lockdown situation, is how much has all of this really changed the average employee's experience of work? That when people were going to their offices, they very much had a sort of quite old desktop computer. They were using a desk phone and very much pen and paper. And even though they probably had latest new software, things like Teams and Office, they were still very much working in the ways they've always worked. They were going into meetings, taking notes on pen and paper, taking actions by doing a sort of little asterisk with a star around it in their notebook. And then, those would get lost as you go from meeting to meeting through the day. And then that notebook gets finished and goes in the bottom of the drawer, never to be found again. And that's just inefficient in the sense of everything's got to be retyped, sent round. And when they're creating content and doing so, they're working with colleagues, that would typically be create a document, send a link round, get other people to update it, and maybe respond on email and so forth. And so it was just inefficient compared to what we should be doing when we use technology and we do AI. And I'm going to hopefully give you a couple of demonstrations of some of that technology, as that just start to think about how we truly transform to a digital way of working and a digital way of collaborating. And what's changed is very much the acceleration of AI in the last few years, and Microsoft Research has been very much at the forefront of that. And the power of the cloud technologies and our Azure platform has allowed us to develop a lot of this. So, things like the human parity that is now reached on speech recognition, object recognition, visual recognition, machine translation. And that allows us to start to transform the tools that we provide users. And so from Microsoft, we talk about Microsoft 365, the world's productivity cloud, enhanced very much with AI. And this is about, as I say, not just transforming where people work, that's kind of been done for us, but looking at how we transform how people work in order to get, really empower everybody to get more done. And so what do we think a more productive way of working looks like in this modern world, using the latest tools in the right way, powered by AI? There should be intelligent assistants that help you identify the tasks, making sure you're not missing tasks, making it easier for you to do simple tasks, because they're working in the background, they're understanding your work life based on what we call the Microsoft graph or the Office graph, which is literally all of that content that's flowing across all of your Office world, be it your email in Outlook, the documents that you're creating, and the communications that you're having with users as well. And it needs to understand all of that, from task management to content to communication. Then we use AI to help make content creation that much quicker and more efficient as well, and allow people to collaborate better, and to do that all in a natural way. So whether people want to use speech, pen, touch, ink, etc., people need to work with the tools that are most familiar and easiest for them to do it. And then critically, and I'm going to show this, around how people collaborate in a much more effective and efficient way. And of course, we're used to being able to do that from all devices. You should have access to any content, any application from any device, be it laptop, tablet, or phone. So with that, I'm actually going to break in and try and do some demos, taking my life into my own hands as ever with any live demo. I'm demoing off of literally my home setup that I use all day, every day. So it's a Surface Laptop 3 running an early version of Windows 10, running beta versions of the Office applications, and obviously coming off of my home broadband. So plenty that could go wrong here, but let's give it a shot. And obviously using a web broadcasting tool that I'm not particularly familiar with. But hopefully you should be seeing PowerPoint now, and I'm just going to show you how a lot of people build their standard decks. They'll create a brand new presentation, they'll put a whole load of the bullet points they want to make on white backgrounds, and then they basically want to show that. They want to make those documents look beautiful to impress their boss, their customer, their team, whoever they're presenting to, and they'll spend quite a bit of time trying to make slides look good. Well, we're now able to inject AI in to do that for you. So here is a standard deck, and you can see I've got this design ideas button here on the top. So when I press design ideas, the AI is going to kick in. Let's just, there we go, and start to look at the content and auto generate beautiful slides for me. So more or less with one click, I can go through and do this. So there we go. Classically, I now have some challenges on the AI and reaching the cloud. There we go. So we'll move on to the next slide. And you can see here it's given me a range of options for how I might want that slide to look. So with one click, I can have the slide format for me. I'll move on to the next slide, and as soon as I click on the slide, it comes and gives me a load of options. So let's choose this one. And what's interesting to see here is if you look at the icons that the AI has inserted for me, it matches the text content. So it's being, it's being contextual. It's talking about sustainable energy with a light bulb and environmental environmental impact with a tree, and down here an emotional connection with a heart, and so forth. So, I'm not having to do any work. I'm just getting the message across in the way that I want, and I'm making beautiful slides with no clicks. For anybody who's involved in project management or timelines, that can be quite difficult to do in slides sometimes, getting everything beautifully lined up. Well, again, as soon as I click on it, the AI recognizes that this is a series of dates and allows me with one click to create timelines in a number of different formats. So I can do that simply. And again, if I wanted to insert pictures, then I can just say I want to insert some pictures from my device. As soon as I go and find a few images, so let's just pick 3 images and insert those, the full image will just go onto the screen. And again, you'd have to figure out how to format that. Well, here again, the AI is kicking in, and with one click, I can format this in a number of different ways. So I've created all my slides almost with next to no clicks, really fast. Now, I may want to go on from here and actually now, of course, present this to my audience. And depending on the environment I'm presenting and who I've got in the audience, sometimes it can be useful to add subtitles. So I can do that live using the AI that's built in. So here, if I go to slideshow and I say I want to use subtitles, when I present this, so this should now, it goes into presenter mode, but you can see it's created above the screen an area for subtitles. Now, hopefully this will pick up the microphone. It's possible that microphone is already in use for the webinar. No, there we go. And you can see it's sending my speech to the cloud and coming back with over 95% accurate subtitles, so my audience can read that. Now, that's really useful in a number of situations. Imagine you are still traveling and you're at a train station or you're in a coffee shop and it's noisy. You want to be able to see what a user is saying if I'm remote, or if I genuinely have accessibility needs, I'm hard of hearing, or maybe English isn't my first language. This can be a really useful way of customers doing it. And I don't have to think about the speed that I'm talking, what I'm saying, but the AI has looked at the content of my slides and it's used that to enhance the quality of the recognition and the audio that it's doing. So I'm going to come out of that. I can even go further with this, and I can actually coach myself and test my presentation skills in advance. And I can use something called PowerPoint Coach, and I can basically do a dummy presentation, and the AI will look at the speed that I'm talking at, whether I'm just reading the slides, whether I'm using too many and R words. And at the end of that, it will give me feedback on how I present and give me guidance on how I could deliver a better presentation. So that's just a couple of examples in PowerPoint, and I'm going to jump to Word here and show a couple of things. And critically here, I want to show that you can now co-author across the Office documents. You can do this whether you're working on the Office applications on a PC or Mac, or whether you're on the web versions or even on the mobile versions. So, as I said, historically, a lot of people will build a document and email it round. Colleagues will then update and email it back, and you've got massive version control. It's an inefficient way of working. So now you share the document from cloud storage, and everybody can go in and edit that document. And you can see here actually that I've had comments put in this document. So once I've sent the document round for comments, then colleagues have created comments automatically, and it's linked to the text. What's really nice is at the same time, I would get an email. So when a colleague leaves me a comment, I get an email straight to me talking that they've left me a comment and giving me the opportunity to open that. And I don't have to worry about where that file is saved. It just links me straight back to the document and allows me to see the comment and make the updates. Similarly, if I'm editing, I might want to edit with voice or pen, and I can do all of that straight into the document. And if I'm new to the organization, or somebody sent me a document and there's classically, we're all in the IT business, there's huge amounts of acronyms, I might not understand all of the TLAs that are in there. And again, the AI can kick in with this references capability. It's acronyms, and it analyzes the document, finds all the acronyms and TLAs that are in there, and then uses smart AI, even for things that it doesn't know. It will go out across our internal networks, our intranets and SharePoint sites, look at those documents and find the most likely meanings of all of those. So you can see here SSD, it's picked up as solid state drive. And so it allows me to get a better understanding of this. Again, if I want to improve my writing, we now have Editor built into all the Office applications. Editor will analyze, obviously not just for spelling and for grammar, but for the quality of my writing as well. So I can have a look at here, for example, I've got some formality things, and if I underline that, it might give me an improvement, or it'll highlight here, for example, you know, I'm using some offensive potentially language. It'll even go as far as, you know, gender neutral terms. So I put policemen, should that be police officers? So a lot of ways of improving what I'm writing. Checking this for accessibility as well. You'll see down the bottom here, we have accessibility checkers in to ensure that everything is easily viewable, you know, understandable, and presentable to people with a variety of needs. Lastly, we've probably all done this when we're creating documents. You're writing in, and I'm just sort of saying something like, you know, insert the numbers here where I need to go and look those up later, and we might put a placeholder like XXX in. Well, again, the AI has picked up that XXX is most likely to be replaced with something else, so it allows me to set a follow-up. So, you know, I can say get data here, and now I'm not going to end up sending that document out without having replaced it, because it's calling out at me in a big way. It's giving me an action. So again, the AI is helping ensure that I do this in the right way. And then lastly, you know, again, speed of work. I can insert things from documents that I've done before. We all tend to do this, right? We reuse bits of content. So if I add from a file, then I can say, okay, I want to search across maybe a file I've already built and find pieces of content to insert straight into this document. This again, there we go. So if I can say I've got demo file 2, and it should find demo file 2, which it didn't this time around. But if I can do that another way, so let's say I want to put the Office logo in, and I can just do a smart lookup. And this goes out to the web and finds everything related to the Office 365 logo. So here it's come back with some web results. It's going to come back with some pictures and allow me to select an image and insert that straight into the document. So a nice, quick and easy way of building my content, you know, using AI without having to chop and change what I'm doing and open up a browser and find it and copy it, paste it in. The last couple of things I want to show you is all of this working on mobile as well. So I'm just going to switch over here to my mobile phone. So if you can see me on the video, this is a Samsung Galaxy 9 phone. You know, and I've got the Microsoft launcher replacing my main screen launcher here that brings all of my Microsoft 365 live to me. So you can see here the meetings that I've got through the day. It brings any sticky notes that I created on my PC or phone. My task management all syncs up to this. You know, tells me the documents that I'm working on. So again, it allows me to get my work done easily. You can see here the latest document was, of course, this presentation. But I've now got the Office app as a single application. You can install from either the iOS or the Google Store, and I can run the Office apps. That will show me, if I go to Home, obviously, again, all the documents that I've been working on most recently. So you can see here that demo file that I was just working on in Word, and I can open that and edit it from my phone, and all of the other documents I've been working on today. But I can also take action straight from the Office application, and it will open up Word, Excel, PowerPoint accordingly. So I can do simple actions like signing PDFs, scanning PDFs, but I can even do things, you know, using AI again. So imagine somebody, I've gone to see a client or a customer, I receive a document in the post. So I have a paper document such as this, and I'm kind of going, well, that's useful, but I want to get that into an Excel spreadsheet so that I can, you know, do some calculations on it. So here on my phone, I can do image to table. That will open up the camera app on my phone and allow me to literally just point at the document and take a photo, and it will then identify that there's a document there. Let's just do that and continue, and then it will perform OCR on all of that and then lay it out into an Excel. Whoops, again, I'm having a lot of network connectivity issues again. Let's do that once more, see if I can make that work. So just point my camera, take the photo, and obviously it's got to send that to the cloud to do the AI on it. And it should come back, no, it's not going to work today, as a spreadsheet for me, open in Excel. I can save to my OneDrive and then copy that you know, onto my PC and do all the usual Excel calculations with it. And so that's great for an individual team, an individual and the way they work using AI. But actually, of course, the key thing is that we want to work in collaboratively. And Teams is the new way that we think work gets done. It's the interface to your work life. And this is an example of Teams here. Now, we're obviously all familiar with doing video conferences and so forth, and you can do that on Teams. So if I go, and again, that's the starting point almost for most of us now. I'm going to do something slightly weird and do a meet now, which is going to start a video meeting of me within this. So it's going to get a little bit weird, but hopefully what you'll see is, hang on a second, we couldn't use webcam video because it's already being used by the other video. But in Teams now, I can change backgrounds. We're about to launch 3x3 grids, so you can see 9 people in video in any one time. And you can also use that same speech recognition engine to do live subtitling of a conference call as that call is going live. And then you can record the calls, so if people aren't able to meet them, you can then play them back. But Teams is much, much more than just a video conferencing and audio conferencing platform. It really is about creating teams and channels and chats for people to do their work in. So you can see here I can have chats that I've got with individuals or one-on-one, and obviously within a chat, I can have, there we go, I can have GIFs and images, I can have videos, I can have content. So all my files are also visible here, and they will open up as Office documents within Teams. So I don't have to lose focus. I don't have to switch applications. All my task management is brought into Teams, all my calendaring, and all of the different teams that I am a member of. So if I click on my teams, you can see here, this is the Modern Workplace team that I'm a part of, and we have a sort of bad jokes kind of channel just to help us all communicate and sort of maintain that human contact in these weird ways of working. But I can also integrate cross-group planning and project management tools in, other third-party apps. I've even got my internal approvals as an app here as well. All the stuff that you're now expecting when I video conference, I can blur my backgrounds, I can change my backgrounds, I can translate text in there and so on and so forth. So really just a much smarter way of working. So I'm just going to come back to wrap up in terms of the presentation. Hopefully that was a few useful demos of things that you didn't realize that you could do in Office today. It really has moved on, as long as you're using what we call Office Pro Plus. So it's the cloud connected versions of the Office applications or the web-based versions. So just finally, we talk about getting modern, of using a modern Windows 10 device with Teams as that front end to work and Office 365 that allows the user to be more productive. But it's also a highly secure platform. This really is taking the best of Microsoft in one product, Microsoft 365, and allowing you to be extremely secure with a single form of identity and all of that content flowing, across, whether it be applications, data, content, communications. And therefore, because it's a single platform deployed and managed from the cloud, it's really easy for IT. It's low cost to implement. So from a security point of view, again, we're using AI to help defend against attacks. You have to assume that at some point you're going to be breached. And again, we have AI to help recover from that breach quickly. And we can even automate, response to incidents as well. And people maybe don't realize just how much security is now built into Microsoft products. We invest $1 billion a year in security R&D alone. And we talk about it being built in, not bolted on. You're not having to use additional agents that slow down the machine, that give you compatibility challenges. You're using a single platform. And we think about security in terms of identity, the information protection down to the file level, as well as obviously the threat protection that's needed. And you have to be able to manage all of that security. And in terms of low cost of ownership, this is very much a cloud-based platform now. Windows is an ongoing platform that we update remotely from the cloud. You can deploy much in the way that you deploy mobile phones. Ship a brand new device wrapped in a sealed box directly to a user. As soon as they log on, we can use Autopilot to deploy that machine, all of the identity, configure and secure that machine within the corporate environment in a zero-touch way. So how do you go about this? This is about transforming the user experience to take advantage of AI. So it's how they work, not where they work. And the advice and guidance is, don't forget, lots of change management is key here. get senior exec sponsorship, because IT projects tend to fail because of the people element rather than the technical element. And think about how Teams can be that new user interface for getting work done. And ultimately, we believe if you do that, we're helping deliver on Microsoft's mission of empowering every person to achieve more. Thank you. And with that, I'm going to hand it back to you, Terry.
Thanks, Robert. Thank you for that. Very insightful. You'll have to share some of those bad jokes with us as well, please. Okay, thank you for that. You should be able to see my screen here, or Adam's screen.
Yeah, thanks very much, Terry. So, thanks, Robert. So, I'm Adam Stewart, as explained earlier, for those who have since. I've worked at Google for 6 years and covered local government, education, health, and also central government at that time. And actually, during those 6 years, worked very closely with XMA on a number of successful deployments across G Suite, which we're meant to cover, but also devices and Google Cloud Platform. My contact details on the screen. Very happy to have a conversation about your organisation, where you are, and potentially how some of the tools you're going to see today can help. If you skip on to the next slide, please, Terry. So many people around the world are familiar with Google, probably most best for search, perhaps YouTube, and some of our other operations. I just wanted to give a bit of a glimpse behind the scenes in terms of the products you see and what we deliver, actually how that is delivered behind the scenes in terms of the number of staff we work on, the number of lines of code. And I work within Google Cloud, part of Google, and part of our role and mission is to take this investment, this innovation, the security protocols and the scale that we achieve, and apply that to your functions, whether that's within education, local government, emergency services, wherever it may be. Within Google Cloud, we've got many tools that allow you to make best use of this technology and innovation. If you think about Google Search and YouTube, when was the last time that you went onto Google Search and it was down or having a break for maintenance? It just doesn't happen. And that reliability and security that delivers these services, we can apply them to your day-to-day operations across public sector. If you skip on to the next slide, Terry. So part of our product portfolio within Google Cloud is G Suite. So G Suite is all about real-time collaboration, no latency issues, very easy to use, and it's actually a product that's born in the cloud, allows teams to work together very quickly in real time, very quickly reach consensus, make smart, informed decisions. And there's only ever one version of documents, there's only ever one way of working, and that is collaboratively, unless you choose to have a private document, in which case you work in isolation until you share that document. Gmail is a key tool that's part of that platform. So your own mailbox, which is linked to your company domain or college domain or school domain. And it allows you, it's a great example, I think, to allow you to make use of some of Google's innovation that's available. So here on the screen, you can see Smart Compose or Smart Reply, you might have heard it referred to previously, where Google gets to know the context of the email, who you send it to, what's the context, what's your language, what's your style, and helps you to auto-complete that. Really saves a huge amount of time, allows you to be much more productive. I'm sure we'll spend way too much time in email today, and tools like this can really reduce the amount of time spent on email. And likewise, if you move on to the next slide, please, Terry. Within Google Sheets, this is our online tool for collaborating in terms of sharing data. You can see on the screenshot there, the animated GIF, that we've also brought in some of these advanced tools to allow you to save time. So here, where you're looking at reams of data in front of you, to save you analyzing that, you can ask questions in real-time or natural language, I should say, just like you would on a Google search. So drilling into this data, you can ask the question. Not only does it give you the results in an easy to understand table format, but also gives you the formula behind that. So if it's not quite right, just drill into it further, and you can see the formula, make tweaks, share that with others. And as you see here, a quote from one of our global customers, really allows data to be much more accessible and aids decision-making across organizations. If we move on, please, Terry. So it's been mentioned already, but in the new ways of working, and as we're working today, you're not always at your laptop. Might be something comes through while you are popping to the shops or out and about, picking up prescriptions, whatever it may be, when we are allowed out. we see that the mobile applications are really intuitive, very easy to use within G Suite, and incredibly popular. So half of students, teachers, and corporate workers use G Suite specifically to edit documents or spreadsheets while mobile, and that's come from a survey earlier this year. Likewise, Terry, if you move on to the next slide, please. We also see that actually G Suite is designed to be very intuitive. It's not got lots of tools and functions which are quite hard to understand. You're not sure exactly what the symbols mean and how it applies to your role. Actually, G Suite is very easy to use. And we see that ultimately it's not about the tool and what it does and what it doesn't do. It's about empowering your staff to be able to complete their role and their job. So we've seen great uptake of G Suite, but more importantly, less friction in terms of change management and being able to implement across your teams, because people are familiar with Google Search and Google Tools and can easily see how that same logic and same workflow can be applied to G Suite. If we move on, please, Barry. Another element of G Suite that I wanted to mention, and I'm sure this will be familiar to any colleges or schools which are on the call, we've got a tool called Classroom, and the whole of G Suite, including Classroom, is available free of charge for education. And for businesses, Classroom is included in every single edition of G Suite that's available. Fundamentally, Classroom is designed to replicate the teaching and learning process using an online tool that, again, is very easy to use and collaborate, but also allows students to get hold of their assignments, their projects, their work, work on it privately, and then submit it to their teacher to market. We've seen a huge uptake in the last few weeks from businesses using Classroom for particularly for training, and you'll see there we've got 100 million students and educators around the world using Classroom on a regular basis. Let's move on, Terry. Another element of the G Suite platform is Google Forms, again included free of charge, as are all the products we talked about in terms of the pricing model for the G Suite applications. Google Forms, super intuitive, easy to use, allows you to put out quizzes, surveys, very easy to put together, but also very easy to access the data in terms of the results as they come through in live time, share that with others, look at some machine learning functionality perhaps to analyze the results and actually import questions. So if you've already got quizzes or surveys in other formats, you can very easily import them and move them across to Google Forms. If you move on again, please, Terry. I mentioned already about G Suite and live collaboration. So G Suite is designed for you to collaborate and work in real time together. Very easy to see, there's no latency, as I mentioned earlier, so you can see exactly who's typing what at any moment. And you'll see here from the surveys, the study that was produced earlier this year, 92% of our users say that it's become standard for them to work in real time in this way. And the big advantage of that, it just means you can get more done more quickly. So particularly as we're not seeing each other face to face so much in recent weeks, it doesn't matter in terms of being able to still collaborate, still work together. You're not having to necessarily sit around or say, hey, I'm going to edit this paragraph if you edit that one. Actually, it's super intuitive to see who's typing when and where, add comments, assign tasks, and work very effectively, whether that's in a Google Doc, a Google Sheet, or one of our other formats. If we move on again, please, Terry. I just want to share a quotation from one of our local government customers, so Manchester City Council, strong user of G Suite. And this quote here just shows some of the benefits that they're seeing. We've got strong adoption of G Suite in many areas across government, and if you want to talk about case studies or understand customers using G Suite nearby to you, very happy to discuss that. More recently, and if you click on again, please, Terry, there's been a huge uptake in terms of G Suite, not just in terms of the tools I've talked through, but also Google Meet, which is our conference. The stats in recent weeks have been amazing. So since January, we've actually seen daily usage of Meet grow by 30 times. And just to give you an idea of what that means, so as of this month, so throughout April, we're hosting about 3 billion minutes of video meetings per day. And we've seen roughly 3 million additional users of Google Meet every day. A very popular video conferencing tool. Again, a great example of making use of some of Google's innovations to aid your working. So yes, we have live subtitles that could be added. We've recently introduced a grid, so you can very easily see a grid view of up to 16 participants. Very easy to present, and also safe and secure. You know exactly who's joining. You can authorize people as they enter the call, but if you're in a place where you've not got connectivity, you've also got a dial-in option with a UK phone number. And if we move on to the next slide, please, Terry. So we've got great pedigree with Google Meet. It's been used by ourselves within Google for the last 10 years. And just to give you an idea of the scale of Google these days, we're about 150,000 employees around the world, well over 50 offices. And we've used this video-first culture. So actually, when it came to switching to work from home, it was quite frictionless for us because we're very used to, doesn't matter where you are, you can very quickly collaborate in a formal meeting arranged by calendar, or just an ad hoc meeting using Google Meet. And as of the start of March, we've actually introduced the enterprise-grade features, which are included within Google Meet. We've made them available to the whole of education and any paying G Suite customers. If you click on one more slide, please, Terry. As of yesterday, we've also made the functionality of Google Meet that I just described available to anyone. So anyone with a Google account, so if you've got your own private Gmail accounts or whatever it may be, you can make use of Google Meet. So that functionality that you see there on the screen, you can very easily connect with colleagues, friends, family around the world and take advantage of these enterprise-grade features. So you can have up to 100 people in a meeting. Meetings can last us up to 60 minutes, and you can actually also make use of some of those advanced features like live captioning, subtitles. And actually, if we start to think about new ways of working and navigating the new normal, these kind of tools, I'm sure a lot of you are implementing them and using them already. If you're not, actually moving towards them and starting to implement them during this time will really help in terms of whatever the new normal is when we get back to normal in a few weeks' time. Okay, thank you very much for listening. Back to you, Terry.
Thank you, Adam. Thanks for that. Okay, so everything that is in there. So like I mentioned at the start, we have that quadrant where we support customers with the 4 various areas. A big part of what we do is around the consultancy, the implementation and the ongoing management as well. So any questions that you have, feel free to drop them in the box or reach out to your account managers. And to bring this all together and to kind of show how we can further enhance collaboration, and at a time where people might be feeling a bit isolated because they're used to working in the office, it brings me great pleasure to now hand over and to Cordula. So Cordula, you should have control of screen.
And there we go. Thank you. Yeah, nice to meet everyone. Let me just see. Can you, one second, let me put this one. Now we go. Yeah, pleased to introduce you to LumApps, which I may suspect not all of you are familiar with. So to give you some context, so we are a strategic partner of both Microsoft and Google. And obviously XMA, and we provide essentially an employee communications platform around all the wonderful capabilities that we've seen with Microsoft and Google and all their cloud-based collaboration tools. So quick introduction as I've just made, and I want to just sort of put in context of where there's communication, fostering the cultural element, all come together, and what can we provide over and above the existing collaboration suites, which is essentially a single point of entry and the user experience. And of course, the employee communication is the core element. And then I wanted to show you a couple of use cases, maybe also to stimulate ideas of how you could use our platform in your, now the new normal, as you mentioned it, in the remote working space or in general. So a kind of just a little step back, we did some surveys on how employees are feeling when it comes to communication, what they received with the, for initially very sudden lockdowns and push to remote working. And we found that actually over 60% of the workers have not received any internal communication or information about the ongoing crisis, or didn't feel there was enough information being sent to them. Partly, of course, is because there are many unknowns, but in essentially there wasn't satisfying level from the top-down communication to the employees, and just under 50% of the employees also felt they couldn't work as effectively remote as they would have in the office. And clearly that has to do obviously with the actual digital capabilities that companies have had in place at that time. And the more digitally enabled they were, the better they could obviously cope. And from a communication point of view, and those companies that had those capabilities could really quite quickly establish open lines of communications, and do what was fairly recommended from experts in the industry to over communicate and to really provide channels to reassure the employees for visibility. There was best practices to allow employees to ask questions and to provide feedback, have like a two-way communication, and very importantly, provide guidelines and best practices, how they should individually behave or within the group. On the other side, of course, the more digital capabilities allow you to ensure business continuity, so minimizing any impact on a business, for communicating a new way of working, leveraging digital workplaces that are already there for faster innovation and collaboration, and to help, obviously with all the great meeting tools, cloud collaboration, documents, etc., to keep focused and engaged and productive. Whoop, one second. So what was Loom? How do we come in? There's two elements I want to talk about. One is the single point of entry. And so how can we, with LumApps, with our platform, allow or foster increased productivity? I'm just struggling. So a couple of the challenges that we see, even with all these great tools in place, is from employees on the one side, that a lot of when they have what we call an intranet, that's a lot of the look and the feel is outdated, and then obviously digital workplace managers always tell us, obviously employees, even if they do have a platform as dedicated intranet, is rarely used. Is a very limited way in most places to interact, kind of go across different communication channels. A big gap that has been made visible in the crisis is that not every employee has access to mobile tools and information. Content is not necessarily about them. Search is not always enabled across all communication channels, so very difficult to find the right information. And one thing that we see time and time again from employees saying is, well, we actually have too many tools and we're not sure which ones are the right ones for me in my day-to-day collaborative efforts. And then equally for the digital workplace managers, they're just struggling to keep, if they have the resources, how can they make their employees aware of them? And again, how do we reach our frontline workers? Big concern. So kind of that's where we see often this communication landscape from a technological point of view in most organizations, be they public or private education. So we have, of course, Office 365, G Suite, which amazing tools and all the whole range of applications at the core. For those organizations lucky enough to have them and have them cloud enabled. Then we very often, in almost all organizations, we have some sort of intranet. Some also have mobile apps for employees, students, or other. Quite a few also have enabled already what is an enterprise social network, sort of like bringing the element of social interaction into the enterprise or public institution. These are kind of the main ones. And what we get is quite a fragmented situation where employees use an average 35 different apps per day and switch over 1,000 times between those apps during their workday. And what LumApps, what we bring to the table is like the software and platform to unify that communication landscape. So we have these four potatoes, as we call it, these 4 bullets, where at the core, we're historically coming in as a top-down communication platform, classical intranet or corporate portal. But we combined it naturally with a horizontal enterprise social network. So within the realms of an organization, how can employees comment, suggest, be social, like things, so bring that sort of social element and humanize kind of the communication in the enterprise. Of course, collaboration is natively integrated into our platform, so we have deep integration with Microsoft, with what we saw, Teams, documents, all the social, and as well as with Google, and whatever the preferred provider is for our customers. And then we can also provide what we think is coming next is what we call social advocacy, where employees are allowed to share internal content in a secured and governed manner externally to improve the employer branding. So internal comms, people can leverage their own employees and their as their brand ambassadors to the outside world. And kind of a bit our vision on the digital workplace overall, where we come in. So we're good at surfacing different levels of communication, corporate, local news, Teams collaboration, which all sit in their respective applications, all the documents, videos, and other third-party business apps for Workday, for HR, etc. And then LumApps is a great platform to organize all this content, to profile it and target it to individual users, and then use that information as targeted information to engage the employees where they consume it, whether it be emails, the social network, team collaborative platforms, notifications, and we can do this across all devices. So the value that you would be getting is from an employee point of view. Of course, we can surface all these applications that they sometimes aren't even aware they have access to and get lost a little bit. We can help them find the information more easily to do their job. And we can obviously receive all the information in the right channel, in their preferred channels. And then for the digital workplace managers, they can kind of capture a lot of information, let's say things that are shared in Hangouts or in Teams. It's kind of, unless it's saved somewhere, a lot of that knowledge that's been built through that collaboration is getting lost. So with LumApps, we can actually capture that and store things for longer periods and make it more accessible to everyone. We can then organize it anyway and make it more discoverable and searchable, which is a huge value add. And then we can obviously broadcast that to the employees wherever they are. Search is a new thing, so we've just looked at some of the amazing technologies from both Google and Microsoft. So we can actually bring those search capabilities or enterprise search into our corporate portals, so that if an employee wants to find information, including on the mobile, they can just type it, and they have, in this case, I have to say the Google-esque search experience, although I know Microsoft is now equally capable of providing that experience. So we can search across any piece of content on the internet, any comment someone made on the mobile app, on the chat, anywhere on the file. The LumApps could be the platform where they can go and find it all very easily. And equally, it's just sort of a different way of looking at it. So they can find the information wherever they are. So mobile is a big push for us, of course. It's natively integrated. So now with frontline workers or with people being furloughed or being sort of, waiting to return to work, is a major to have that connected and be in one single platform to be able to really effectively bring those employees back and maintain that connection throughout this crisis and beyond. So just like a quick summary here. So what we can do, when you look at these stats, that 20% of the workday is spent searching for information, and the constant switching of employees between all these different apps, every 3 minutes, which is obviously a big loss in productivity. That's where LumApps can come in as a single point of entry to surface the content from Microsoft and Google apps and all the content. And last not least, obviously, how can we use employee communication to provide more culture, make sure that employees feel more engaged, less isolated, and obviously help them share knowledge and experiences. And a couple of use cases how we do this. I mean, first of all, when we build a platform, be it an educational institution or a globally operating enterprise, we can bring into our tools their brands, so that people relate to that. So it's all the design. It's very easy to set up, so it looks and feels like your company. Already mentioned, we can bring that all same experience to the mobile. We can help with making the content more relevant and engaging by targeting to the individual user. So If you're mostly in the office desk worker, now work in a home office environment, you might have a different view than someone who's mostly out and about. It also depends on where you're based. Are you in the UK? Are you in one of your offices over abroad? So we can target the content so that you as an individual receive what's most relevant to you, and that obviously engages, makes you more likely to read it, comment on it, than if it's just a generalized corporate content pushed to you. And everything is available obviously on the single hub, so that experience. What else? Obviously, it's just a little bit. So we already looked at the search. What's very important for many companies is the government element. So rather than building many different sites and intranets and platforms for communication, you can have it in one, but still have a very high level of governance within it. So you could say, well, there's maybe news that concern everyone. This is our global. We're sharing best practice from health organizations globally on how our employees should behave, how they can protect themselves, that's something that's maybe applicable globally. But then I have all my local subsidiaries, so I want to make the news information relevant to them, and you can do this within LumApps without leaving the platform. And yeah, this is very important, very flexibly set up. And then we want to also build in analytics. We want to know, okay, what are our employees actually consuming, what they're reading. If we have social elements, what we call communities enabled, we can, understand what is the most commented about topics, what are trending topics, and hopefully very soon we're going to incorporate a lot of the great AI that we've seen. So, to analyze that written content, to identify trends, etc. All that can help the communicators and the companies to improve their approach. And then maybe some use cases just from a different viewpoint, how we do. One is the news center that we, so how, making it really, building that culture of having a centralized news page where you drive alignment and awareness, where it's really your corporate voice, where it's still targeted with individual and corporate news. And yeah, from all sides. An HR portal, I think, is something that's very important right now. So you can use the platform to configure it in such a way that you have a centralized hub, a sub page on our platform where you can highlight the key policies and procedures, events that are happening that are crucial, all the related HR specific news policies. You can obviously, connect this very easily in LumApps to your SharePoint or OneDrive or Google Drive. So you can make all these documents available so they know exactly in context where they can find it. And then you can make your different channels, whether it's be Hangouts or Meet, and the different Teams channels specifically to HR available on those pages. So they can ask have two-way conversations with key HR people to answer all their questions. Equally for IT, so you can configure the LumApps platform as an IT help and support platform, again with the look and feel, with the most relevant documents, videos, how to do things. So that really minimizes the calls that IT receives on a daily basis for support, because you've explained it once, you don't have to do it hundreds of times. And a big initiative is in very innovative companies that they allow this kind of peer-to-peer approach as well. So someone who doesn't know how to use the systems, etc., can kind of offer themselves through the profiling of the individual users on a platform to kind of support their peers. And then, employee directory, the last one. So we can help create nice profiles for all the users, for all the employees. Based on obviously we can leverage the Active Directory of our collaboration suite partner, but then based on that we can enhance that profile. So we can say employees can add, what their expertise is, for example, so they can then search for people who are an expert in a certain area and quickly find and connect with these people. They have all their contact details there, so you can email them, you can start a Teams call with them straight away. So it really builds that connection within the company. Yeah, so and that's it so far. Could talk more, but I think I've given you hopefully a good overview, and any questions you might have, happy to answer them.
Excellent, thank you very much for that, Cordula. That was a brilliant overview. Thank you for that. So I am just going to share my screen because we're getting to the end of today's webinar. So I think now's the perfect chance or opportunity for me to say a massive thank you to all our partners that supported us on today's webinar, so Microsoft, Google, and LumApps. Thanks for sharing the insights, or some of the insights within the innovation that you're providing users to enhance that experience and ultimately to help organizations develop their digital capability. I'm conscious I had my camera off most of the time, so I will, just to be a bit personal, I'll switch it on now. It was obviously, like many of us working from home, I was a bit worried initially because I'm sitting in a different room today and my kids are not too far from me, but they've behaved quite well today, so I'll let them see this part of the webinar as well. So just to let you know as well, our store is open. Nothing changes there. We've made some modifications to the store to make it easier for customers to purchase online. We have a team of architects and solutions consultants that are kind of on hand to support you as well. So any questions that you've seen from today's webinar or the previous webinar or the ones before that, please feel free to reach out to your account managers and they'll be more than happy to help. And if you don't have an account manager, as promised, here are some contact details for you on the screen. We have another webinar on the 7th, which is our first part of the two-part series around balancing innovation with security. And kind of that brings us to the end of the webinar. We've got a poll that's open, so if you have a couple of moments with you, are able to complete that, that would be appreciated. But thank you to all our panelists for joining today.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you, and thank you very much to all the customers that have taken time out to join us today. I hope to see you again soon. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.